Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Do to Study. So today we are going to start a new chapter of history, that is the first phase of the Indian national movement. Okay, it's chapter 3rd of history. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 of history I have already uploaded, and chapter 1 of civics is also uploaded in my channel. Okay, so do watch them and study well. Okay. So here in the previous chapter we discussed about the formation of an all India political organization, that is the Indian National Congress. Okay. Now the main aim, or by the formation of Indian National Congress, the national movement went a step forward. Okay. Now this Indian national movement is broadly classified into 3 phases. First phase, the early nationalist phase. Second, the assertive nationalist phase. And the third one is the Gandhian era. Okay, the early nationalist phase was from 1885 to 1907. Okay, so all this year, the early nationalist phase was going on. And then the assertive phase was from 1907 to 1916, and the Gandhian era was from 1915 to 1947. Okay, did you get that? Now, why these are divided so? There are reasons for which they are divided so. See, in the early nationalist era or phase, the national movement was led by a group of leaders known as early nationalists. Okay, now they included many leaders like Surendranath Banerjee, Dadabhai Naoroji, okay, and Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and many more. Okay, so these leaders had a common idea, and they all believed in open-minded and liberal ideas. Okay, and they also thought that the British were just. That is, the British can do justice to us, but the only problem is that they are unable to they are unable to know the actual problem of the Indians. So they said that we would be loyal to the British, and because we have belief in you, that is, we have belief in British. If we would be loyal, then we believe that you would also be loyal to us, and there would be improvement in India. Okay, they thought that the British connection with India is beneficial for both England and India, and they also believed that if the British would continue here, then it would lead to development of India. Okay. Now, furthermore, they also demanded that we Indians should also have some position in the government, so that we can represent our problems better. Okay, now the leaders who were early nationalists, they included all people from all sections, or not all sections, they included mostly educated Indians, like professionals, professors, teachers, lawyers, barristers, and furthermore. And many of them were educated outside India. So they had modern liberal ideas. They took influence, or they took ideas from the Western ways. Okay. So it was all about the early nationalist phase. Then the assertive phase. Here we will not discuss. In this chapter we will only discuss about the early nationalist phase, but these two we will discuss in further chapters. So I am just giving a brief idea. Okay. So in the assertive phase, the assertive nationalists were very active. They thought that if India would continue under British, then nothing good is going to happen, and it would lead to decline of India. Okay, so they were very aggressive, and they wanted to adopt or accept violence method, the method of, or the what you can say, or the path of violence to fight against the British. And then the Gandhian era comes here, that is from 1915 to 1947. In this era, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, led the movement against the British. That is, led the fight against the British to make India independent. Okay. Now we will read about the beliefs of the early nationalists. Okay. Now we will do the beliefs of the early nationalists. So, beliefs of the early nationalists. What does it mean? It means what were their aims and what were their objectives, or what idea they had. Okay. So now let's know what are they one by one. So the first one was that they had faith, or they had belief in the British. That is, the British are justice, they would do good for us, and they believed in the Britishers' integrity. Okay, so basically they had belief in the British. Okay, furthermore, they also believed that they would play, or their play would be fair. It means that they would not cheat us. Okay, now the second belief was that they thought that the British would grant home rule to Indians. That is, the main supreme power would be Britishers, but under them, Indians can rule their own country. They had a faith that this would happen one day. Okay, they just wanted home rule. What is the third belief? They thought that the British, if the rule of British in India will continue, then it would cause many benefits, and it also had many benefits. They thought like that because there are few evidences too that would support this, that supports their thought. Like, under the British government, under the British rule, India was able to leave behind the ill practice of sati, untouchability, okay, so, and child marriage. So by citing these examples, they thought that if British would continue their rule in India, then surely it would be for the good of Indians. Okay. Now the fourth one is that they thought, or they had belief, that the British would help the Indians to govern their country. Okay. And one day India will also reach to the same zenith of success as now England has reached. Okay. Now the fifth one is that they said that British is not the problem, or is not the obstacle that is stopping India from progress or from development, but the social evils, or the social backwardness and economic backwardness, illiteracy, all these things are driving Indians away from, or is driving India away from development. Okay. Now the sixth one, they relied on constitutional methods, and they were all peace loving. They did not want to protest by being aggressive or by violent means. They wanted to adopt constitutional means. Okay, and that is this because they had faith in the British that one day, or they will understand the problems of India. This was their faith. Okay, now we will discuss the demands of the early nationalists. Okay, so now we will discuss the demands of the early nationalists. Now, to improve the condition of India, the Indian nationalists, the early nationalists presented some demands before the British government. So let's see one by one. That is, their demands were covering every areas like constitutional areas, economic area, administration area. Okay, so let's see what were the constitutional reforms or the demands related to the constitutional reforms. Okay, now they wanted that the Indian Council should be abolished because why? Can you relate something or why they asked for the abolition of the Indian Council? Because see, the Indian Council was comprised of the British members, not the Indians, so it was of no use for them. Okay, and furthermore, they said that more Indians should be represented in the Parliament, so that these Indians can say the actual grievance of the people, and these members should include the local members like that, those who know the people, those who know their problems. Okay, then they said that the legislative council and the legislative assemblies, that is both at the center and in the provinces, their strength should be expanded. Why? By including some more Indians. Okay. Now they also they raised the slogan, no taxation without representation. It means that if the Indians are not represented by the Indians themselves in the parliament or in the councils, then the Indians would refuse to give tax. Okay. If the Indians would be there in the council, then the tax that are collected from the Indians can be used for the welfare of the Indians itself, isn't it? But what it was used to be, taxes and revenues were collected from Indians, but that was used for the welfare of the Britishers. So they said that should not happen. Our money should be used for our welfare only. Okay. Now the fourth one is that by the beginning of the 20th century, they raised the demand for Swaraj or self-government. Okay. That is, they wish that their main motive was to attain Swaraj itself. But they did not wanted that from the beginning itself we would demand for that. They thought that we should go ahead step by step, and therefore after demanding all these things, now that is by the beginning of the 20th century, okay, now they wish that now they demanded that we want Swaraj. Okay, and then adequate representation of Indians in the executive council of the viceroy and those of governors. That is, presence of Indians should be there in every field. This was there in every administrative or in every constitutional field. This was their main motive. Okay, now we will discuss about the economic reforms. That is the economic changes they wanted. Economic reforms. I want to say that you all should open your book and sit so that while I am explaining you can relate it with your book. Okay. So what were the economic reforms? They wanted that earlier the money that was collected from Indians was not used for the welfare of Indians. So they wished that they should not continue anymore. Therefore, they wanted some changes in the economy, in the economic section, or the rule related to the economic sphere. Okay. They wanted that the land revenue that were collected from the peasants should be reduced. Okay, because at that time exorbitant levels of taxes were imposed on these peasants, and it was very difficult for them to pay their tax, and as a result they led a miserable life. So they said that the revenue should be decreased, the land revenue should be decreased, so that the unjust demands of the zamindars against the peasants would also decrease. See, to pay the taxes they used to either take loan from the zamindars by keeping their lands by giving their lands to them. So when they were not able to return that loan, these zamindars used to be very cruel with them. Okay, so to protect the peasants from the zamindars, they demanded, that is the early nationalists demanded to the British, that there should be reduction in the land revenue. The next one is the reduction in expenditure on the army and the money thus saved to be spent on welfare activities such as health and education. That is, much amount of money was spent for the maintenance of army and troops that were in India. So they said that this should be reduced and the money that is saved from this should be used for the betterment or for the welfare of the Indians. The third one is that they wanted that the British should consider or should have a look into the growing famines that are occurring in India, and they should find a solution for it, and or they should find a way by which Indians can overcome this situation, or by which the life of Indians in such famines should or will be better. Okay. And then availability of cheap credits to peasants, that is, loans should be given to the peasants for buying seeds or for maintaining their land, that is for plowing the land and for all agricultural purposes. Now you know that agricultural loans are given in all government banks and other banks too, so that the peasants, also the farmers, can buy the equipments or the seeds that are required for their land. Okay. Now the next one is that they wanted that banking, irrigation, medical facilities and health facilities should be developed for the people of India. Okay. If these things are developed, then it's obvious that the way of living of the people would also develop. Okay. That is, the health conditions and the economic, that is their poverty, will also be removed gradually. Then they said that industrial growth should be promoted. That is, a heavy tax should be imposed on imported goods. That is, the goods that are imported to India. You all know that what the British do. What did the British do? They exported Indian goods, or they exported the raw materials from India. They exported the raw materials from India, for which India got very less economic return. And furthermore, to sell these goods in their country, Indians had to give much money. But on the other hand, the British also used to bring their goods from British to India, but they did not levy any tax on these British imported goods. Isn't it? So it means there was no economic benefit for India. So now these people said that industrial development should be done by trade protection. That is, heavy tax should be imposed on the goods that are imported to India. Okay. And furthermore, they should also give their hands to the development of iron, coal, paper and sugar industries in India. That is, they should help the people to advance these industries in India, or to set up these industries in India. Then the seventh one is the total abolition of salt tax and the duty on sugar. That is, you might have heard about the Dandi March, isn't it? In that, what did Mahatma Gandhi do? He started that march for abolishing the salt tax that was levied on the people who were living in the coast, isn't it? So, salt that was prepared by the Indians itself, that was easily available naturally. In that salt also tax was levied. And furthermore, sugar, if you want to buy sugar, then on that also tax was levied. isn't it? So they said that these taxes should be totally abolished. Okay. Now the third one is administrative demands. What are the administrative demands? They wanted that some reforms should be done in the administrative area also. Like, they demanded Indianization of services through simultaneous Indian civil service exam in England and India. So they wished that the Indian civil service examination that was done, that was mostly done in, earlier it was done in England. Okay, so it was difficult for the Indians to travel there and give the exam. So they wished that this examination should be done in England and India both at the same time, so that persons or people of India will also be a part of the Indian civil services. Okay, the second one, they wanted that the executive and the judiciary should be completely separated. Okay. Now the third one, they wanted that the local bodies, the powers in the hands of the local bodies should be increased, and the official control that was on them should also be reduced. That is, power of the local bodies or the members who are present in these local bodies, the power that was given to them should be increased, and furthermore, the control that the British had on them should also be decreased. And they also wished the removal of the Arms Act and the License Act. Okay. Fifth one, they wanted that more and more Indians should be employed in the higher posts. As you know, most of the higher posts in every field was reserved for the Europeans only. But these early nationalists wished that this should be changed, and in higher posts also Indians should be there. Okay. Now the next one is spread of primary education among the Indians. Yes, it was very necessary for a future that can fight against the British. If every person in India would be literate, then they would have a greater ability to understand the things that are going around, isn't it? So they said that primary education must be given to all. And then improvement of the police system to make it honest, efficient and popular. That is, corruption should not be there in the police system, and it should work for the betterment of the people, for the protection of people. Now we are going to discuss the defense of civil rights. Defense of civil rights. That is, the basic rights that all people should have. These rights were also prohibited by the British. So they wish that these rights should be given to them. Like, they said that the restriction that were imposed on the freedom of speech should be removed. Okay. And also the freedom of press. The restriction that were imposed on the people or on the Indians regarding the freedom of speech should be removed. And furthermore, the freedom of press should also be given back. Because if press would not function, if the press would not be allowed to print the actual truth, the truth that is going on, the happenings that is going on, then it's not possible that the Indians will know the happenings around the world, isn't it? And furthermore, if the press would be there, then the press brings out all the things, all the actual practices that the British are doing, isn't it? And let's see what's the second one. that is abolition of the Preventive Detention Act and restoration of individual liberties. All individuals should be given freedom. And the third one is restoration of right to assemble and to form association. That is, people should be given the right to assemble and form association, because if associations are formed, then only new ideas would come up, then only new strategies would come up to fight against the British, or to attain or for the welfare of Indians, isn't it? So regarding all these things, the early nationalists made demands to the British. Now, in the next video, we'll discuss about the methods of the early nationalists. Okay, till then, bye bye and study well.